Go for it.
Yep.
Coach, when you look back at this season, how much of your tenets, the things that you came in focused on, did you feel your group achieved this season?
I think that we accomplished a lot in that. I think we did a great job of, handling the highs and lows of the season. What we wanted to accomplish both defensively as our calling card. I thought that was great. Our young guys learned how to win in this league, which was what we've talked about from the beginning of the year. You talk about the support that we had from our fans, from the city. I mean, those are things that, you'll look back on and say, you got better, you grew, and you built something very special for years to come.
Jamal, when you look back on this season, what are you the most proud of?
The growth of the group. I really do. You start the beginning of the year not knowing exactly how strong this group could be and what they could become. And last night stings probably more because that group knew exactly what they were capable of. And I really do believe they felt it in each one of those moments. But the growth of the group, the experiences that they had, never getting too high, never getting too low, being able to win the games that we won when people didn't expect it. But that group in that locker room, they did. And I think that's the sting of this moment.
When you first took the job in 2021 and you thought about what the team, not personnel-wise, but as far as chemistry and cohesiveness would look like at this point, is this kind of what you envisioned it would be?
This is a special group, and we'll say it over and over again. This group is tied together, pulling for one another, making sure that they're pulling for the next man, and I think this is exactly what you envision a group of young men to be, especially in this league, where it could be individual, but these guys all pull for one another, no matter what the circumstances are, and that's the power and the beauty of this group.
It's a very special group, as you mentioned, and of course, it's not going to be fully the same. How do you mourn that?
Well, you embrace it. You embrace it as part of what this business is as in the NBA, but that doesn't take away who each one of these young men are to this group and this organization. We've had changes over the years, but who we know we are every time you step on this floor with the Orlando Magic is who you have to be on and off the court. And I really do believe that each one of those guys embraces that, and that's why we constantly talk about on and off the court is so important with this group.
From your perspective, what does this team need to do to improve in the offseason?
Well, obviously reflecting back, you look at, shooting. There's some aspects that we'll look at, just being able to dissect it a little bit more in this offseason will be very important. Obviously, last night you're still looking at that and thinking about certain things you could have done differently, looked at. But right now, that's one of the aspects that we'll look into. But for the most part, it's going to be a long evaluation process in the summer of what we'll need to do to keep getting better. And then a big portion of it is just our young guys continuing to get better and work on aspects of their game.
Emotionally, how hard is it to separate the result last night and the accomplishments of the entire season?
I really believe because of the way we've kept the perspective all year, it's not as difficult as it may seem, because throughout the year we haven't always been attached to outcomes. We've been attached to the process of how we're improving, how we are getting better, how we're growing as a group, how we're gaining experience. So, like I said last night, and I just told the guys in there, this stings. And if you didn't care, it wouldn't sting. And these guys cared because they know exactly what they were capable of doing, and there was a belief system in that locker room of how good we can be and how good we're going to be. But separating it, you don't necessarily want to do that because this is a step in the direction of what we've said this group is going to become. And sometimes in the losses, the same loss that we would have had against Sacramento hurt the same way that a Game 7 can hurt because you're learning something from it. But you have to learn from it, so that reflection is something that we have to look at.
with that core or with that culture, how attractive does that make for free agency or pulling somebody in to join this group?
Well, it's got to be the right person to join this group. You know, you don't want to make moves for the sake of making moves. You have a group of young men, again, that we've talked about, that pull for one another, that strive for one another, that lift each other up and empower each other to do the right thing and play the right way and defend at a high level and share the basketball, all of those things. And when you put pieces into that, you want to make sure it's the piece that fits both on and off the court.
You know, over the course of your tenure here, we've seen the jump players have made from year one to year two. How big of a summer can this be for AB and Jet?
I think it's a huge summer. I think for them to realize and recognize what it means to be a playoff team, to get to a game 7, to battle throughout the year, and them to experience it and be part of it. They believe and they understand exactly how hard you have to work, how physical it can be, how taxing it can be on your body. So making sure you're taking care of your body and your mind throughout the summer to make sure you're putting yourself in position to give yourself a chance.
As big as home court was in this series, on the broadcast they made such a big deal out of it. Was one game, you know, between the 4 and the 5. Is that warranted, or how much do you think about that as you're coming back on the plane ride or anything like that?
Absolutely thinking about it, and that's the hard part, but also the beauty of what the discussion can be next January when you've got a game in Cleveland on the road and you know it's a team you can get, and that's how important it is. It's important that you go to Charlotte and you understand at the end of the season how important that one game is. And so the hard part of it is experiencing it, but the beauty is going through that experience and knowing you can reflect on it next year and say, this is why these 1 and 2 games that seem meaningless on a Tuesday in January are very important to the end of the season.
Jamal, as you as a coach, how have you grown this year?
You know, that's part of the reflection, that I'll have to take some time and look back at where I can improve to help these guys improve. I think that's what I look at more than anything is, am I doing the best job for my staff, for these guys, to put them in the position to be successful? And I'll have to reflect and evaluate and get some opinions from those around me, the second set of eyes that can see that, to help me understand how I can help everyone else be at their best as well.
The group's been locked in, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I know it's only been less than 24 hours, but how does this break coming up, you know, how will that be important for the group as a whole?
Well, we've talked about being one of the best recovered teams in the league, and so that's part of it. You know, part of that is taking some time away, to spend time with your family, to spend time with, you know, those around you that have not had the time with you in this run. And so being able to take some time away, reflect, learn from their experiences, look in the mirror a little bit, and go from there. So it's good to have that time away, but also knowing that when you start to get back to work, how intentional your work has to be.
Does this season seem like a setup for next year? This group seems like they want to take on challenges head on. Now they've set a bar, and they seem to be, as a group, they'll be motivated to overtake that next year, which would be something they could strive for.
Well, we've said it from when we walked in, that at the moment you step on this floor and put on an Orlando Magic uniform, you're taking on challenges. You're going to be asked to do things at a different level, both on and off the court. And who you are and what you bring to the table is expected to be at a championship level. And that's what we're demanding from this group and whoever steps into the building from there.
Coach, last year y'all were always talking about making it to the playoffs this year, and you guys did push all the way to the Game 7. With this team, the majority of them, it's their first time in the playoffs. How would you say the team did as you reflect on that? I know it's been a very, very quick turnaround.
Well, like I said last night, I'm so proud of this group. You realize the average age of our group is 24 and some change. So for them to go through this experience, to handle the ups and downs, the quote-unquote physicality of the game, I think they handled it very well. To not get rattled, to play with a sense of poise, to understand the gravity of each moment. I think they did a great job with that for a young group. but it's just for us and for them knowing that it's just the beginning of what we're capable of, and that's why I think them going through it, you have to go through the experience to understand exactly what it takes to get to the next level.
Everyone good?
Good.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks,
you.
Coach.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
all
Coach.
for everything. Thank you for the year. Appreciate it.